All right, all right, all right. Welcome in, welcome in. Let's get our Facebook folks in here and we can start the show. We got the wheel spinning there. Let's see if they go today. It is Wednesday, the 5th, with Super Bowl week, and we are in. Welcome in, folks. Welcome in. Man, it is Super Bowl week. We're here. We had the media yesterday. It was kind of fun to hear some of the Chiefs players talk about the Broncos. I saw Chris Jones yesterday hyping up Bo Nix, Patrick Mahomes talking about him, Samaje Perine giving him a shout out, and Zach Bond as well talking about Sean Payton and trading up for him. So we'll see. We're keeping eyes on Zach Bond this offseason as Broncos are very much in linebacker watch. But this is Broncos for Breakfast. I am Nick Kendell, joined by Scott Kennedy. Scott, hour number 2 here. I hear it's beautiful down there in Atlanta. What's going on? What's new?
It's been sunny. It's one of those days where it's cool in the morning, 30s in the morning, which is it's pretty cold for the South.
Yeah.
And then 70s in the afternoon. So it's pretty gorgeous down here right now. It feels like spring, early spring. So that means there's some really nasty cold rain headed our way.
Yep. We are in a massive cold spell right now in Seattle. Look at the forecast, and it's like 10 to 12 degrees below normal highs projected for the next like 10 days. So, it is what it is. We had a nice, clear, dry January. So, it always comes back around and evens out. What is weather but the equilibrium of energy? But what a nerd. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun talking today. We're going to get a little bit of stock exchange going on with the Broncos, sell stocks on these guys, and also hopefully run a mock draft towards the end. But let's say hello to everybody coming into the chat. We got David Youngkin saying, morning, everyone. We had one Bronco fan wanting to trade Benito last night, which everyone said that won't happen. Yeah, Denver is probably not in a position to trade Nick Benito. They're a team that is contending. I will say the one scenario, Scott, which, again, we're just talking the hypotheticals of hypotheticals here. But let's say Denver, they approach him. They want to give him $17 million a year. He's like, no way. I'm a $25 million a year guy. They punt for a season on that. We want to see you do it again if we're going to give you $25 million. And then for some reason, the wheels completely fall off the bus. Denver's like 1-7 at the deadline. Maybe then you're talking about trading Benito. We don't want to pay you guys. Obviously, we need a little bit of a soft reset here. That's the one area I could see Benito being moved, unless you're bringing in Myles Garrett. But I think even though Denver made the playoffs last year, I think they're still probably a tier below the teams that Garrett wants to go to. So Benito's probably going to stay. I will say I'm totally fine kicking the can on him right now. I don't know how replicable the output was from last season going forward. I don't expect that. I didn't see dominant wins constantly on the tape just compared to the production, but good player all the same.
Well, and that's part of the problem with the trade scenarios when we do this, as fans. In order to make a trade to get something you want, you almost always have to give up something you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's typically you've heard me say, I see this in soccer, I see it in other things. It's like, oh man, this guy's overpaid, he sucks, and he's always hurt. We got to trade him. Well, you can't trade guys like that because no one else wants them either. So what, we talked about last year, what was your only trade piece? It was Pat Surtain. Okay, well, it would take a fortune to get Pat Surtain, at least 2 first-round picks, and now probably more now that he's under contract and you know what you're going to get and everything. Well, Nick Benito is a viable trade piece. That means you want to keep him. A viable trade piece is an asset to your team. You don't want to give him up. But in order to make a trade, if you were to make one, you got to give up something that is desirable for other teams. But I don't want to trade Nick Benito, not on the trajectory that he's on either. But like you said, it might speak to the fact that we wanted to do a contract extension. He turned it down and we moved on while we could still get something for him other than trying to play the comp pick game, which is never going to happen when you've got owners as with as deep of pockets as the Walton Penner Group. You're never going to get comp picks because they're always going to be playing in the free agency pool.
Yeah, the only thing I can say to counter that is, let's say Denver is good enough in the draft and develop game that they're using their money to retain their own players. Mm-hmm. And, like they're letting competent guys walk. That's the ideal situation. I mean, I don't think the Ravens ownership group is necessarily poor, or the 49ers.
No, but we're a couple of years from that. We're still reaping we're a couple of years from being able to recoup the first-round draft pick from Sean Payton, the 2 first-round draft picks from Russell Wilson, and all of those other things. We're not there yet where the roster is so stacked that I've got them lined up like cordwood, where my number 3 guys are leaving as free agencies for millions and millions of dollars.
Yep. I'm with you 100% on that. But that's when you're really cooking. And not only are we a couple years from that, Scott, we're a couple years drafting and hitting and developing above expectation as well. Because, I mean, just because we saw it in 2021, the Broncos draft class. Oh, it's one of the best, ever. And then, okay, granted, didn't have a lot of picks, but it's kind of hard to hit that level. We go back to the Saints in 2017. Oh my gosh, if they hit another draft like that, they're going to be set up for decades. Not decades, but a decade. Well, they don't hit another one like that. So again, you take it year by year and you see it's all the people in the NFL. Well, most of them are pretty good, and it's hard to hit consistently above the average. Rob coming in here, always hitting above average.
Real quick, before you move on, let's get into that. Was it the 2021 class or 2022 class? It was the 2021 class, right?
The 2021 class was the one where they had 4 top 100 picks
that got all the plaudits.
Yep.
All right. So Pat Surtain, obviously, that was a hit, and you had to work to not hit in that draft, sitting at number 9. Javonte Williams, you traded up to get him, so you lost a 4th in that, but you had a bunch of picks. Okay. Is that necessarily a hit? Quinn Miners, hit. Nice job. Baron Browning, he's gone. Caden Stearns, he's gone. Jamar Johnson, he's gone. Seth Williams, he's gone. Kerry Vincent Jr., I don't remember him.
You traded
Jonathan Cooper, absolute hit. Marquise Spencer, he's gone. How quickly it can turn around. That's still a good draft. Don't get me wrong.
Great draft.
It's still a great draft. But that's how many players? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you hit on 4 out of 10. And that's a phenomenal draft.
Mm-hmm.
You got 4 really good pieces. But that's how quickly we look at this. We look at the drafts and we're like, okay, we got this pick, this pick, and this pick. We're going to fill this hole, and this hole. If you hit 50% of your picks, you're doing really, really well. That's why we always want more picks.
Yep. It's also one reason that I feel like we run these mock drafts, or we talk about the draft in general with a lot of fans, and it's like, well, you didn't take a tight end round 3, so the draft is terrible. Your odds of already hitting on round 3 are not very good, so why would you pigeonhole yourself to a singular position? Now, yes, you're trying to play the draft game and get like long-term developmental pieces in the overall to help the overall health of the roster, but at the end of the day, if you are hitting on your picks, it doesn't even really matter on the position. Now, you want to stack it a little bit based on positional value and the economics of the position. Yes. But again, if you just hit, you're going to be healthy over the long haul. So I wouldn't be so pigeonholed to one singular area. Again, there's nuance to that. Take advantage of the strengths of the singular class, because it won't always be that way. Like last year, offensive tackle on the top. This year, not as much. Last year, quarterbacks at the top, wide receivers. This year, not as much. This year, defensive line at the top. Tight end and running back, day 2. So you want to take advantage of the individual classes. But
let's hit on Rob real quick, and then we'll take care of some business. Rob, he says, good morning, Nick and Scott, and thank you for the super chat, Rob. Always the best MHH team. I'll appreciate that. It's going to choke me up today. Thoughts on trading for Miles or Cooper Kupp? Myles Garrett, do you have different thoughts if Kupp is released? So I wouldn't give up much for Cooper Kupp because he's getting older and he hasn't been able to stay healthy. What did Devontae Adams go for this year? Wasn't it a third?
I think it was a third. It might have been a second.
Yeah, but it wasn't a ton. And Devontae's been more productive than, but he's getting older, and the money's not bad. But I think the Rams are just looking for some cap relief in anything that they can get at this point. And they've already said we're willing to take care of that option bonus and knock it down to 12.5. Well, $12.5 million for Cooper Kupp, that's fine. And his second year, I think, is non-guaranteed. So, if I can get him for almost nothing as far as a trade goes, I'd be willing to go for $12.5 million on Cooper Kupp. I don't want him for $20 million, and I don't want to give anything more than a day 3 pick because I don't trust him to stay healthy.
Yeah.
So, and on Myles Garrett, he'd be worth 2 firsts. That's going to open the bidding, and that's going to put you in a queue with about 15 teams.
Yeah, and that's where like Nick Benito comes into play, because if you're bringing in Garrett, you're giving a new contract, and you're not paying Garrett and Allen and Benito. So it'd be probably better for the health of the roster to save one of those firsts, make it a third, and send Benito with the first as well. Just again, you can't pay everybody. Only 1 year left of Benito contract, but again, that's hypothetical. I don't think Myles is coming here. As far as Cooper Kupp goes, we talked about it a lot last night. I keeping the ear to the ground there coming out of the Super Bowl. It does seem like a lot of teams are balking at the potential of him being available. Oh, he's available. Well, actually now he's available and we're going to eat 8.5 million. Well, actually now we're going to eat 12. It's just like, we only want like a day 3 conditional pick. I think he's going to get released, Scott. I really do.
Yeah. So 12 million guaranteed going in next year, or basically a 2-year, $25 million deal with 12 guaranteed. That's a 1-year, $12 million deal. Yeah. Okay. I'm interested.
Yeah, we'll see. I think he's going to get released. Denver has tied for the 3rd best odds. They're behind the Steelers, and the Bengals, and tied with the Commanders, the Chargers, and the Patriots. But we'll see. It makes a lot of sense for Denver just for where they're at and filling a need prior to the draft with a high floor move.
And the good news about Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett doesn't want to play for a clown show of an organization like the Cleveland Browns. I can say that with love. I was born in Akron, Ohio. My whole family lives in, extended family is from Cleveland, basically. And yes, they're one of the 5 worst franchises in the NFL. He doesn't want to play for an underdog anymore. He wants to, and the Denver Broncos have played their way into a legitimate playoff contender that, with a difference maker like that, can be a real problem in the playoffs. Yeah. But coming up with the big game this weekend, speaking of underdog, the best app for your big game party is actually on your phone. It's called Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the big game. Which players are going off and which ones are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps.
With their pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats such as touchdowns, yards, interceptions, and more. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep writing with your entry or tap the Win Now button to cash out whenever you want.
Download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus, Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply, void in Colorado. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Moving on here, let's say hello to some more folks here in the chat. We got Michael Ronquillo, the one, the only, the Ronk. Good morning, Nick, Scott, and Nick on Broncos for breakfast. Go, Bo Broncos. Go, Michael. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate the heck out of you coming in here. We got Denver Luke, TMI here, saying he's getting in the shower here to listen to the show. Well, that's God bless you. My birthday came early, man. Happy. No, we got Chase coming in. Good morning. Good to see you, buddy. I see Jason Bonnie's in the house. Guy Chase Wellner here flexing on you. I need to get back in the gym stuff, Scott. I hurt my shoulder, back in like September, and I've been taking it easy. It's still not 100%, but I feel like I'm getting soft. And I need to get back on the workout grind.
I've started up again. I had that absolutely insane. You are obsessive compulsive, insane steps and calorie streak on Fitbit of like 5 years and 7 months. And I'm cranking it. And I got off that for like a year and have put on way too much weight. So I'm getting back out there.
Yeah. Jess Kennedy says I'd pass on Myles. Yeah, I don't know. And Myles Garrett doesn't fit in the Broncos building plan. The thing with me is Myles Garrett is that I talked about it last night. Denver is I think Bo Nix is a franchise quarterback, but I don't know if he's like an elite franchise quarterback. So right now you have a 3-4 year window where you have a starting caliber quarterback on a bargain contract. So really, I mean, your window right now with the perspective of Bo Nix is somewhere to the 20th to 12th best quarterback in the league with high return on investment. So you're in a 3 or 4 year window. That lines up really well with Myles Garrett. So that's something also you can afford to pay Myles Garrett when you have the rich owners and not paying the quarterback a lot. So again, if he's available, you're calling. He changes the complexion of your defense. Denver was number 1 in sacks last season. Well, guess what, folks? We kind of saw it. Riley Moss has one injury. You lose one safety, the defense falls apart. Defense is so volatile year to year that you just need to continue to add players, especially on the defensive front. So I don't completely understand not wanting Myles Garrett if you have a chance. But again, it's because I'm in the perspective of you have a 3 year window, 4 year window right now to go for it. We don't know if Bo Nix is going to be a top 4 quarterback. So yeah, I say go for it.
And Nick, those grapes were probably sour anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't really want them. If you can't find a place for a defensive lineman edge rusher that's finished top 5 defensive player of the year the last 3 years, all pro in the last 5 seasons, I question your building plan. Because basically Nick Bonito is going to be as much in his next contract as Myles Garrett is now. Okay. So it's going to be similar on that. What's your building plan? He's 29 years old. He's not 32. We're not talking TJ Watt here coming off of, we're not trying to bring JJ Watt back. I mean, this guy's still in his prime for the next few years. Is your playoff window now? You're getting a ton of money back from Russell Wilson next year. You'll get more back than Myles will cost you as far as greenbacks go. You're going to be able to draft a guy that's anywhere near as good as Myles Garrett? Maybe, but probably not. You planning on making the playoffs next year and you want to make a run? Then Myles Garrett fits your building plan. And if it doesn't, you're built on quicksand.
Yeah.
You're just not going to be able to get – it's just the odds of getting him are astronomical because he fits everybody's plan.
Yeah. A transcendent.
Even the Browns.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to be at the Browns because they're a clown show.
Yep.
And I mean that with love, Cleveland fans. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
I really do think, just given the value of a pass rusher and how that raises the floor, that if I had to pick one player for one game or one season, it would probably be Myles Garrett right now. I think there's an argument for Micah Parsons. There's an argument for Chris Jones, maybe also Jalen Carter. But those interior guys are pretty great. But we'll see. We got Pearl in here saying, hi, all. Quentin Caldwell, good morning. All good to see you. Always appreciate you guys coming in. Chase says Coop is the CMC of wide receivers. He's definitely good. I don't know if I'd put him up in the Christian McCaffrey mold, but he had a good run there. It's not been he had an amazing 3-year run. Not been as good the last.
What he's also saying in there is can't stay healthy. So that's part of it. He's one of the best players in the league when he's on the field, but I'm getting 2/3 of a season out of him. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also what I read into that comment.
Yeah,
is that he's phenomenally talented, one of the best weapons on the field, but I can't count him to be on the field.
Yeah. String guy coming in says, good morning, all. I just want to keep our draft picks and build through the draft. Maybe one big free agent signing and some depth pieces. Denver's going to, I think I said on here, Scott, I'm going to make 2 guarantees for the offseason. Denver's going to pay a linebacker in free agency. And I think they're also, before the season starts, you're going to have Zach Allen get a new contract. Also make one more guarantee. At some point, they're going to draft a running back. Because it's just too deep. So those are the 3 absolute no doubt guarantees for this team. Everything else, you have flexibility. It's going to depend on who's available, the contracts, the scheme fit, the culture fit, everything like that. I mean, culture fit matters, especially for somebody like Sean Payton. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out. But
I don't know if it'll be guys. You have built through the draft. You have. Mm-hmm. Now you can, if you see the opportunity to try and get a difference maker through another venue, you can. This isn't like. That's what makes this a viable option with the Denver Broncos is you have built through the draft. You do have the money. You do have the picks. You don't have gigantic holes at quarterback or anything like this. It's yes, this player could put us over the top. You've earned that right. That's a fun position to be in. You got a good team, a young quarterback, a bunch of money, and all your draft picks. That gives you a lot of flexibility, dude.
Yeah. The only thing I wish when I go through this draft is, man, I wish I had like an extra day 2 pick, just to kind of round out the roster. But, everybody would love that. Eric Flynn coming in with the super chat here. Superstars. Thank you so much, Eric. I didn't see a other comment in here from you, but if you have something, we'll make sure to get you in here. We appreciate you a heck of a lot coming in. And I wanted to get into the topic today, Scott, the buy, sell, Bronco stock, high, low, everything like that. And I guess I'm going to be a hater and start with a sell on this one, but we've already kind of been talking about it. I'm going to sell on Nick Bonito stock right now because I think it is probably about as high as it's going to be. He had an incredible season this year, but I still view him as a player with limited pitches in the bag as far as a pass rush move, a good speed guy, but still some limitations as far as run defense. Now he's gone from abject disaster to below average for your edge out there, that's a huge improvement. You can get him on the field in early downs and it's not going to absolutely kill you. And he's still, again, I'm not saying that he's bad. I just think that right now his stock is probably about as high as it's ever going to be. I don't think he's on this rocket ship trajectory right now. Like, just what did he have this season? 12 sacks, 2 defensive touchdowns in there for All-Pro Defensive Player of the Year conversation at one point. I don't know. I just think like a lot of the peripheral stats, the unblocked pressures, the quick pressure, stuff like that doesn't indicate long-term superstar to me, just a very good, useful player. So I think I'm going to sell on the Benito stock. But again, it's just because I think it's about as high as it's ever going to be.
So y'all listening, this feels like a different conversation than what I had kind of prepared myself for, which is like, does this guy, is he on an upward trajectory or if he pan out or a downward trajectory,
Yeah.
which like Pat Surtain, I mean, you'd probably sell on him. He's as good as he's ever going to be if he's a stock, but when
like
I'm building a
stock,
team,
right? Yeah.
I want to invest in Pat Surtain and I don't want to lose him. So I feel like it's different connotations here.
You can buy on Surtain because it's a stable one. I feel like it's in you have a very
I'm getting dividends there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think you're okay doing that.
But Nick Benito right now is a penny stock.
Yeah.
Do I want to invest a new contract in him? Well, depending on what it is, yes. So, based on what he costs now versus what I've gotten out of him, he's on the rise. I want to keep Nick Benito.
But let's put it this way. If these guys are on the open market, like I think Benito's value might be as high as it's ever going to be right now. I just don't know if I see the same profile being replicated next season. I think there are some holes in his game, and it was a perfect storm of the depth of the interior defensive line, the waves of the edge rusher room as well, and playing a scheme that really gave him a lot of one-on-ones. So I think the stock is about as high as it's going to be. And again, we always talk about it on here, Scott. People think of these young players as this like steady linear growth. Like, oh, he was this good next year. That means he's going to be this good next year and the year after that. Yep. I think it's probably more likely we see a little dip from Benito. And I think I could probably sell his stock as at an all-time high right now. And I don't think it's going to continue to appreciate.
Okay. Like I said, I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around this exercise. Because when I'm thinking of team building, when I think buy, sell, I'm like, do I want to keep him or do I want to get rid of him? I want Nick Benito on the Denver Broncos.
I will be curious to see what he gets contractually right now in this offseason. I think something also we can look into for the Broncos is that we saw it with PS2. We saw it with Quinn Miners. How much do they love him? If they love him, he gets a deal before the season starts. If there's any delay, there's some skepticism because they have the money to do it if they want to do it right now. So I know they just paid Jonathan Cooper as well. But again, we're just keep an eye on what they do. Not always what they say, but what they do, because there can be some indication. I mean, there's a reason that they drug their heels so much on Garrett Bowles. There's a reason that, with 1 year left, Cortland Sutton hasn't gotten a huge extension yet either. Some of that's, the age and everything of these guys. But again, I think that I'd like to keep Benito. But let's say this, Scott. Like, let's say right now, the Falcons offered me pick 15 for Nick Benito. I might take pick 15 because it's not just the, getting a 15th overall pick, but it's the cost control asset as well. You're going to have to pay Benito soon, and he's going to be probably asking, if he has another year like this, $25 million. Yeah, I don't know if I want to pay him.
He should be a free agent after this year, right? He was fourth.
Exactly.
He was a second round pick, so 4-year contract.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm a little bit more skeptical on paying him a monster contract, but he's a good player all the same, and a very useful player. We've said it on here. He's a fastball pitcher, and he can get guys out with that fastball. But again, I think his stock's probably as high as it's going to be. Coach Chris, this is just me, but going after Miles reminds me of Manning era, where we went and signed a few expensive stars for 3 years, and then financial impact set us back. While he's a great player, it doesn't scream sustainability. I think the one thing about sustainability in the NFL, Coach Chris, is that it's kind of it's somewhat of a mirage unless you have the quarterback head coach dialed down. I mean, really, it's focused around that. You're going to have blips here and there, but there's so much roster turnover in the NFL anyways. I think there's something to be said about knowing when you're in your window and striking when the iron is hot. And it can blow up in your face, no doubt about it, but can also really hit. I mean, we saw the Rams back in 2021, right? They went for it. They hit. And it was some short-term moves. So,
well, that Manning era, what else did you get out of it?
One of the winningest 4-year stretches in football.
Super Bowl.
And a Super Bowl. Yep.
Yeah, a Super Bowl. So again, if you're going to go all in to win it, there's probably going to be a dip after the fact. It might take a little bit longer for some teams than others. And like Nick said, if I'm winning it with a 27-year-old quarterback, then it might take 10 years for that dip to hit. But look at the Patriots right now. They're definitely in a trough. So the difference for me on this one, Chris, is again, as we said, String Guy said, I want to build through the draft. You've got a young team. You've got some sustainability already built in where because Myles Garrett's only $20 million right now. And if you got him, you could re-sign him and knock that cap number down. Because you probably want, if you're going to trade a big package for him, you probably want to get him for 4 years. So you want to get him to an extension. But he's only $20 million this year, and he's only $25 million next year. You get more than that back in Russell Wilson money this year. You get double that back in Russell Wilson money the next year. So because you have built through the draft, and because of the financial and the young players and the young core, you can go after a guy that's in his prime and go through the free agency. You don't want to build through free agency. It's too expensive. And the guys are older. But if you can supplement your core that you have built through the draft with a guy like this, then I think it's a good idea because his contract wouldn't hurt you. It wouldn't hurt you. A long-term extension, if he gets hurt or something, that might. But overall, he's on 2 years, $45 million. That's not bad money.
Yeah. So now, Scott, you mentioned PS2. We'll call that as a buy. I think that one makes sense. It's like buying Apple, right? Like you're not buying at the basement, but it's
I'm getting my dividends.
You're going to do okay. It's just a stable one here. A guy that I'm going to buy stock in right now who I think has the potential to really rise into prominence is Riley Moss. He had a very good season this last year before the ankle injury, and that was his first year starting on the boundary. The other reason I really like buying Riley Moss stock is that I view him as having multiple pathways for impact on this team. When he came up, he obviously dealt with that hernia injury his rookie season, but he had dimebacker role out there. He had some slot role out there. I think he could play slot or safety as well. So I think the pathway to the field and making a positive impact on the defense is a lot. He's not somebody who's like, oh, he's boundary cornerback or bust, and if he gets passed or can't hang, he's going to stink. I don't think that's the case at all with Moss. So I'm going to buy stock on Moss right now. I think that there's a good chance that that profile raises and you're going to get better value year by year on him.
I think the obvious one in this scenario is Bo Nix.
Yes.
That's the obvious one is Bo Nix, where he finished the season. And then if you look at let's see, I go to ESPN and I look at the top quarterbacks on QBR, he's probably in the low teens, maybe even in the 20s based on the course of the whole year. We know he played pretty damn good the second half of the season. So he's definitely on the rise. He's cheap as a rookie quarterback, that he is absolutely a buy now type of guy, for this exercise. Someone I think who is about to see his Q rating go up, the old, and I actually heard a second part to this. You've heard me say this, but I heard a second part to this year was the old saying with the All-Star game was you get it the year after you deserve it. And then you probably get it 1 year longer than you deserve it. That's the second part. I hadn't really ever heard that. Probably at least 2 years after that. Zach Allen. Zach Allen's Q rating is about to go up as people will start to. He deserved it this year. And just like Pat Surtain coming into this year, his Q rating skyrocketed. And now he's getting the plaudits and the awards that went with the hype that took him a couple years to build. He didn't all of a sudden get 10 times better. People are just starting to recognize and catch on. Zach Allen's going to be one of those guys in 2025.
Yeah, Allen is one that, again, you're probably, if you do it now, Scott, I actually think your value might go up because I think he's going to get a monster interior defensive line contract. My understanding is he's the priority guy this offseason on this Broncos current roster to get a new deal. So if you get him right now, before he signs I won't say record breaking, but like a top 5 interior defensive line contract, you'll probably get a jump there for his stock. So I think Allen is a good one as well. You mentioned Nix as a buy now as well. I mean, I don't think you're getting him if you got him before the season, you're getting him a lot cheaper. Now it looks like there's proof of concept for him. So that one makes a lot of sense as well. If it's time to sell, for me on the Broncos, the guy that I'm going to sell on is the value is not very high, but I still think that probably have to sell is Jaleel McLaughlin. Now, I think he works so hard, Scott. I know he's a running back, but running back room is terrible this season. And to me, he looked the best when they gave him opportunity, and they still were just like, we don't want to give this guy an opportunity. They just did not want to do it. So again, he's nice to have in the room as an option, but I'm trying to see, like, there's got to be a reason that they don't trust him to just, get a majority of the workload. Maybe it's the pass protection stuff, but the running back room is going to probably completely overturn. I almost went with Audric Estime, but just because he's so young, rookie contract, I think his probably stock is slightly lower than McLaughlin as well. I think I can get a little bit more value selling McLaughlin. So he's the one I'll do, even though he's a hard worker and I love to have him in the room. I just think that, again, you had a void in the room and they just continuously did not go with him. So I think there's a question there.
I think I'm going to go buy sell on 2 receivers. I think they found the role for Marvin Mims, and he is growing into it in confidence. And I think we'll see his role expanded in 2025. But we also saw Devon Vele kind of fall off a little bit. 7th rounder, if I'm not mistaken, and 27-year-old rookie. I can't help myself when I hear something, oh, we want to give these young guys a chance. I'm like, Devon Vele is is older than little Jordan Humphrey, So he's not a young guy. He's a second contract guy type of age. He's not a young guy. But we saw his role kind of diminished. I think he might have a little trouble making the team with a full free agency slate of money and a full set of draft picks in the offseason.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with him. I'm going to buy as well, Scott. You talked about the wide receivers there. And something we kind of talked about on all these shows, you're not making draft picks for their rookie year impact necessarily. You're trying to think about them as an investment. And somebody who, a lot of Nick Bonito talking here. Again, Nick Bonito is a good player. I'm happy to have him. Am I paying him top 5 edge rusher money? No. But he's definitely one of the top 20 in the league and one of the best pure speed rushers. That said, talking about having to pay him, your decision could get more complicated or more easy depending on how you look at it, depending on this next guy that I'm buying stock on right now, and that's Jonah Ellis. Broncos took him at pick 75, 76 last season. He is a smaller player, not necessarily finesse, so to speak, but not always a power player. Plays with more power than his frame would suggest, but he was like the 6th youngest player in the entire NFL last season. He's got a lot of good stuff in his hands. I know he's had that shoulder injury, so maybe that sets him back a little bit, but he's your 3rd edge rusher. They're going to want to rotate those guys. I thought Cooper was fine last season. He's a stable presence, but I think Ellis has a chance to really take that next step from year 1 to year 2. You got a big chance to step forward there. So I'm going to buy stock on Ellis. I also considered Tillman, undrafted free agent, but just given how young Ellis is, I'm going to buy some stock on him.
Yeah, and talking about this is one where actually this is the kind of buy sell I'm used to.
Yeah.
As far as like, will these guys be back or not? And DJ Jones is a free agent, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like,
he is.
Yeah, he's a free agent at the end of the year. And he'll probably make about half in 2025 of what he did on this last contract. And I'm okay with letting him walk. I'm with Coach Chris on this. I'm okay with letting DJ Jones walk.
I would like Jones back just for the stability of the room. Like, he had a
$7 million.
Yeah, I think that's 2 years.
I still think that's a little rich for me, honestly.
Yeah, and the market's going to be weird for interior defensive line because it's such a deep draft for the interior defensive line, and I think there's options in free agency as well. Like, let's say Poona Ford's out there and you can get him for $3 million a year less. Okay, bet. Like, I'll probably go that way.
Yeah, you can get really good interior defensive linemen in the $3 to $5 million. You can for backup types. You can absolutely get rotational. What would we see out of Malcolm Roach? Malcolm Roach was a very good rotational, and I bet he wasn't 3.5 would be my guess, maybe.
Yeah, and the other thing about buy sell with DJ Jones is that he's getting older. We just need to get some younger guys for the stability and the trajectory of the roster. So somebody who stands out for me is Brown from the Rams. He played nose tackle I think he was drafted by Dallas in the 3rd round, 4th round maybe. Always really talented, but never really got together. And this last year for the Browns, I thought he really did start to get together. He's only 25 years old. And that's somebody I would be interested in paying. And just because, again, where they're at in their league, I think there's growth, upward improvement there potential, where DJ Jones, you're probably the best you're going to see from him right
Malcolm
now.
Roach's cap number this year was $3 million. Next year it's 4.25. Yeah, so that's about right. That's where you want to spend on good number 3 interior defensive lineman, and that's where DJ Jones kind of played this year. He's a nice rotational piece, but he was probably 15, 12 to 15 this year as opposed to 3 to 5. And I think he'll probably be playing in that neighborhood next year. He'll be playing in the 5 to 7 window. And typically, you don't want to take that haircut from the team that was just paying you 12. You're like, no, I'm going to turn that down and I'm going to go play. I'll play for 5 because I'm going to have to, but I'm going to go do it for somebody else.
Yep. Yeah, without a doubt. We got Todd coming in here saying, good morning, Broncos country. Great to see you, Todd. Appreciate you so much. I'm going to get into one more buy sell here, Scott, and then we'll run a quick mock, 4 rounds. But I'm going to buy stock. I don't remember if you said this one or not, but this offense needs mouths to feed. And right now with where the NFL is at, explosive plays are at a premium. And we kind of saw, if you look at the game-by-game split, it seems like Denver started to figure out a little bit with Marvin Mims. The ball's got to go somewhere. He's explosive. He's never going to be a dab you up route runner kind of guy. But they can figure out the way to get him, especially if the Broncos continue to add better blocking options at tight end and that big slot role. There should be, and running back. I mean, you should have more opportunities. And again, it really feels like Peyton was all of a sudden starting to understand how you can manufacture space for Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims also still extremely young. I think he's only going to be 23 next season. So I'm excited to see what he can do. The ball's got to go somewhere, right? It can't all be Cortland Sutton or the running back dump off check down options there. So I'm going to buy stock in Marvin Mims right now.
Yeah, I agree. And that was the one I kind of lumped him and Devon Vele in together.
Yeah.
As far as the buy sell that, we saw the usage. Vele, I think in the first 3 games, Vele led the team once in targets. And then he probably had more targets in that game in September than he did in the entire month of December. He just kind of fell off again. So yes, I'm with you on Mims. He turned into the guy that we hoped he would. It took a little longer, but again, where was he taken? 2nd round, 3rd round. That was
the last pick of the 2nd round.
Yeah, so right in there with Nick Bonito. So premium guys, you're betting on traits. And those traits might take a little bit longer to develop, but when they do, my goodness, you just hope it doesn't take all 4 years of the contract, and you're getting, and it didn't with Nick. It took 3 years. So you're hoping to get 2 years of good cost control production out of Nick Bonito, and really you're hoping now you got a chance to get a full 2 years out of Marvin Mims.
Yeah. Yep. My last sell here, I'm going to sell on PJ Locke. Broncos didn't really seem to love him. He got picked on a little bit. I love him as a depth safety, really hard worker. You love to have guys like that in there. In Denver last season, we've said it on here 100 times. Because of the dead cap hit and the lack of picks, they were going to have to skimp, bargain bin shop in some areas, and they did that at running back, tight end, linebacker, safety. And it looked like it on the field. So you got okay ROI. You kept your head above water, but I think Locke is somebody that they're going into the season, and I wouldn't be shocked at any sort of premium investment there. Whether it be a guy on free agent like Javon Holland, Trevor Morig, or Andre Sisco in free agency, or drafting one of the top safeties at pick 20 overall. I think it's all on the table. And PJ Locke, I think it's probably time to sell the stock there.
Yeah, at 20, you can truly look. I don't necessarily have to look at positional value where I have to pass on it, where it still plays into your board for sure. Guys get moved up and down. Well, he's a center. He only plays center. I'm going to move him down a little bit. But if he's really good, you get Gray Zabel at 20. I'm going to be pretty happy for Denver Broncos if Gray Zabel ends up being the pick at center before the Denver Broncos with the number 20 overall. That'd be a solid pick. Oh, he's a center in the 1st round. Yeah, but man, he's a plug and play center for the next decade. He's freaking good.
Yeah. Yeah, I am with you on that one, Scott, 100%. So we got about 5-10 minutes left before we get on out of here. Is there anybody else you wanted to buy or sell?
Here, Coach Chris has a good one. Buy, dare I say, on Vance Joseph. In this exercise, the way that Nick is playing, I think Vance's stock has nowhere to go but down. Yeah. Honestly. Now, if he can back it up and go, does it go up if you're able to do it in back-to-back years? felt like smoke and mirrors to a certain extent, where I felt like a lot of the Denver Broncos' success came because of Vance Joseph until teams kind of figured out what he was trying to do. He should have better personnel this year across the board. The defensive side of the ball should get upgrades, several, and depth this year. But that's a good one. I think that's a very good question.
Yeah, and that if I'm buying anybody, I'm buying Sean Payton stock, right? I think the stability of the organization, the direction is good. Yeah, Jess Kennedy says we're fine. Our center is average. We are fine at center. I think that your center is average because of the guys around him. At guard are both above average or a plus player in minors, but your center is 1 year away from hitting free agency, and you need. I think honestly, with how Sean Payton's built the team and how Bo Nix plays specifically, I would argue that stabilizing and guaranteeing you have a long-term top 5, top 10 offensive line is as important, if not more important, than finding a first-round pick, not a blue chip caliber guy, but a first-round pick on in a pass catcher. So Wattenberg, I mean, if you watched the run game last season, offensive line, they were pretty good. Most of the time, if there was an issue, it was Luke Wattenberg related. So he's, as they call it in basketball, where's the fish? Where's the stinky one? Who's the guy here that we can pick on in our games? Most of the time, it was Wattenberg. But you're right. He's like competent in terms of like you're okay having a cost-controlled filler position there, a jag, so to speak. But that shouldn't also keep you from looking to upgrade the position if there's an obvious upgrade. That is just my philosophy in team building.
Yeah, and I once told a girl in high school that she looked fine, and I got my head bit off. So fine's a bad word to me. I want good.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it would have to be somebody like Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel, to me, is a phenomenal player. Again, he was one of the best guys. If I get Creed Humphreys at 20, would I? Yeah, I'd be happy with that pick. Is that my priority? Hell no, it's not. It's not my priority by any stretch. But I would still consider that a good pick.
Yeah, and the way I look at it, you probably want to draft a center guard. It's on the table, but it's more of a round 3, round 6 conversation. So you can give the guy a year in the system and then develop him to take Luke Wattenberg's spot in 2026. But if you adore Greg Zabel and you think he's the best guy on the board and a future all-pro player at center, then you have to consider it. It's
and Nick's going to crank up this mock draft now instead of talking center for the next 10 minutes, and then stick around because we got an announcement, pretty big announcement after we get done with the mock draft.
Yeah, yes we do. So I'm on the board here with the Broncos. Scott, I'm going to use this little arrow ticker here, so I'm not scrolling like crazy. We got edge rushers galore here. If we trade Benito, then we're talking.
Look at that.
From our steward interests me, Scott. Sorry, go ahead.
You got 4 straight edges right there, huh?
Yeah, crazy.
That screams for a team that needs an edge. That screams for a trade down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. No time for that today, but I think Shamar Stewart is interesting at 4i just because he's so gifted and rotational. I think he can be a rotational impact player, inside, outside, maybe early down edge, reduced 4i, and be your long-term John Franklin Myers replacement. Kenneth Grant is 340 and extremely athletic. Matthew Golden might end up being the best wide receiver in the class. There's Greg Zabel. We talked about him a lot. And then I also saw we had Jahdae Barron, Colston Loveland, Tyleik Williams. We've done Colston Loveland twice, Scott, so I think we should go away from that.
Of these available players,
I probably got to go with one of these defensive.
Nick, I think the bigger need as far as the available players, assuming they're all on a flat line, would be the interior defensive line. Then I might go Kenneth Grant for this team. I've got my DJ Jones replacement right here.
Yeah.
And he's not even a replacement, but an upgrade in run stuffing because he's got 40 pounds on him.
With you. He's going to test really well. I wish he played a little bit more with a little better leverage for how explosive is he. If he could play a little lower, I think that power and that momentum he creates would be better. I do think, though, Scott, Shamar Stewart, he's got the frame to play 290, 295, and he could end up being a pretty good 4i in the scheme. I mean, John Franklin Myers played edge for 2 teams with the Rams and the Jets, and then reduced to that 4i, and it looks like a good home for him. So we'll see what's happening there. We're on the board again here for the Broncos.
I know what we're picking here.
Tyler Booker, Cam Scattaboo. I think it's early for Scattaboo. Porter is interesting. There's okay. Jalen Walker.
There's your Walker that you will not pick there.
Yep.
What if he is available? Oh, there's Darius Alexander. My God, I can fix your defensive line. Speaking of 4i with production,
Yeah.
Darius Alexander is who people think Shamar Stewart is.
Yeah, he's
a
he's pretty
beast.
he's pretty
I
great.
go back to back with those two, and I got your defensive line fixed for the next decade.
Yeah, that would be unbelievable. I think I will recommend a different direction here. Because we went defensive line on the first one, there's enough offensive weapons here that I feel pretty good about it. The ones who stand out from here are Trayvon Henderson, Ohio State, and then Senior Bowl not superstar, but star as well, who Daniel Jeremiah said he's pushing the first round. I think Mel Kiper mentioned he's pushing the first round, and that's Elijah Arroyo. You want to look for a joker, a seam stretcher. He's got good size, actually, and he is explosive. So I think it's between Henderson or Arroyo for me. I think there's a good chance Arroyo goes first round. I mean, he might even be in play for the Broncos at pick 20, Scott. So I think I'm going for a different direction here with this draft. What if we go Arroyo?
That's fine with me. Like that seems. I haven't seen enough of him to go, okay, a tight end in the first round, is that the tight end? But you've watched him a lot more than I am. I just watched him at the Senior Bowl, and he was good there, but he didn't make me. I saw a lot of guys that were good there. Like in that setting, Brenningstool was as good as Arroyo.
Yeah, I really like Arroyo. The explosiveness. The big issue with him is he's got a leg injury in the past, but he was a pretty high recruit as well. Good profile, good size. I mean, that's
There's
something.
Trevion, so you're done there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and click on him.
I think we got to do Henderson on that one. Yep, for sure. And we've got the tight end, we got the running back, we got the defensive line. We're kind of in a let's have fun here.
You've got all these quarterbacks that nobody wants.
Jalen Rivers had a good week. Offensive line is never a bad idea to go offensive line.
Jalen Rivers had a good first day, and then he really fell off on day 2 and day 3. Like he was one of my favorite guys on day 1 with Gray Zabel, and then day 2 and day 3 were like, yeesh.
Yeah,
he got kind of abused.
There's Jarquez Hunter as well. Billy Bowman had a good week at safety. Like him a lot.
Bryant is a guy that just gets open.
From Illinois, he had a good week. I thought there was maybe another wide receiver who Peebles had an incredible week. He's more
Aeneas. Aeneas is the Braden Fisk of this class. Braden Fisk was a guy that went in the second round with the Rams and was like all rookie at the interior defensive line, just with a lightning first step. Aeneas Peebles reminded me of Braden Fisk down at the Senior Bowl.
I mean, he's totally different than. Gosh, I'm sorry, I'm not meaning.
He is. He's out. He's a 290 gap splitter.
He is completely different than Kenneth Grant, right? So it's a different position. He's defensive line, but you're talking a 4-eye, 5 technique.
Slide inside in a 4-3 lineup, or
versus a 0-1
downs.
Yeah, exactly. I think Peebles is the move here. You're taking advantage.
Closer to like a Yaya Diaby, if y'all have watched him with Tampa, but Aeneas is he's a disruptor.
Yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. So here we are. They didn't love some of our values here, but I saw PFF had a stock up Elijah Arroyo, potential first round pick. So I think that grade will change here pretty soon. And this is one of those ones you can screen cap it. We'll see about Kenneth Grant. His stock seems to fluctuate between 15 to 30. So that's probably right about
for me.
Value.
It was, I don't know. I'm just going off their board by position. Yeah. If it's close, I think interior DL as a DJ Jones replacement is more of a need. If I can fit best prospect with a need, I win.
Yep.
Now, if he's not anywhere, I'm not reaching though for that for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, so here it is. They don't love the grades there, but we can go back in hindsight and see where these guys go. I mean, again, I think that this would be you add juice to the run, you add juice to the offense, and you fortify the defensive line. I mean, this is the best of both worlds, and I think it helps the team both immediately and long term. So I'd be very happy with it, Scott. I'd be very happy. So you guys let us know in the chat what you think as well. I don't know if we gave Michael a shout out here. Thank you so much, Michael. Says great show today. And I'll get this off.
Big stars too on that, Michael. Certainly appreciate it. So the big announcement, unfortunately, Chris guessed, and I got some bad news for you. He says the big announcement is this show is going to 5 days a week. Well, not really. The big announcement right now is after next week, I will be stepping away from Broncos for breakfast. I'm actually starting to tear up on this. Good Lord. 4 years that Nick and I have been doing this together. And in the last year, I've had some other stuff come up professionally that needs to take more of my focus and my time. I will still be, for those of you who care, I will still be around Broncos country. I'll still be on the back end producing, and I'll be the first arm out of the bullpen when they need somebody to step in. So I'll still be around, and Nick and I will still be doing our show on my channel. But I will be stepping away from Broncos for Breakfast after next week. We have someone lined up to replace me, someone that you know and love, and Eric Trickle. So as we go into the draft, MHH's senior draft analyst, Eric Trickle, will be stepping in to replace me on February 17th. I can't thank, I feel like this isn't a word speech. I can't thank Chad Jensen enough for creating this show for us, basically for me and Nick, saying, you know, I think this is something that might be able to work in drive time. And Nick has been as gracious and has become one of my best friends in doing this for the last 4 years. And then obviously with Broncos country, embracing an outsider to come in and do this has meant the world. And I've gotten it's been a lot of fun getting to meet some of y'all in person that I'll be stepping away. But it means these last 4 years have meant a lot to me personally and professionally. And those are the big thank yous that I have for everybody for those last 4 years is Chad, Nick, and all of y'all.
Yeah, Scott called me driving back from the Senior Bowl, been thinking about it. And I mean, my big takeaway was, I mean, you know, like this, obviously you guys super chats, it helps a lot, but it's more, you know, the love of the game and the love of just talking ball with all you guys, but Scott in particular. So definitely a personal bummer, and want to thank Scott for putting up with my ramblings and the seasickness from running the mock draft simulator. But it's not goodbye for sure by any means. Scott will still be around and hopping in here or there. I might need to, you know, send Eric some, you know, virus through the mail or something. Oh, he's sick for a week. Scott, we got to get you back on here. But no, it's again, just want to thank you for all the time, the effort. I mean, I know this has been a big, not a burden, but a time commitment to do this.
Almost 500 shows, dude.
Yeah, we've been hanging out a lot. So it's been a lot of fun. Back to you, one of my best friends, and we talk, as you said before, we talk almost as much as we talk to our spouses. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's always good to talk with you because, you know, I can get on a idea and you'll push back, but it's always theoretical, respectful. You know, there's never any hurt feelings.
And the point is what we do is a lot of prognostication, and there is no right or wrong. You know, at least let us be wrong before you tell us we're wrong. Yeah. Thank you, Denver Luke. I know you follow Nick and I around to wherever we happen to be, and the support means a lot.
Yeah. And I see Jess is leaving with you as well. I guess Jess doesn't really like me compared to Scott. I get it. I like Scott more than me too. But yeah, I think you're talking about Eric on here and argumentative. I think Eric, give it a shot. Eric and I are really good friends too, and I think we're going to be able to. I think it's going to work pretty well.
One of the reasons Nick and I talked about this. Look at Dale coming in. Dale, somebody that I've gotten to meet and has broadened my world with good people. I surround myself with good people. Is Dale and D-Dub. Gotten to meet him at both meet and greets I've gone. Thank you so much. And Chris coming in. Guys, this means the world. And one of Chad and I talked about this a lot while we were down in Mobile together. And this is our show. You know, it's Chad's channel, but it's our show. And I feel good about Eric coming in. I've been on shows with Eric, and we watched Nick and Eric together, and the dichotomy there that it lets Eric's knowledge shine. Nick will bring out the best in Eric. He really will. So give it a chance. And I know you will, because y'all are here for Broncos and love Nick. But like I said, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, Broncos country.
And the other aspect is we'll still be talking Falcons football and draft in NFL in general for the foreseeable future. So this isn't the end of Scott and Nick totally. It's just the end of Broncos for Breakfast in this rendition. So appreciate everyone. We got to fly. We're going to be here again next week as well. And again, it's not totally goodbye. So appreciate everyone. Shout out to all our star givers today. Everybody coming in big. Rob, Michael Ronquillo, Eric, Coach Chris as well, Denver Luke, Dale coming in, Coach Chris again. You guys are awesome. Make sure you're following Scott and I on Twitter, of course. Scott's at Scott Kennedy. I'm at Nick Kendell MHH. Also follow us at Mile High Huddle and Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle /Facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share over on YouTube. we will see you guys all again next Monday, hopefully with the Chiefs dynasty going down. We'll see. Who knows? And appreciate all you guys. We'll see you again later. Can choose kindness and compassion. Go Broncos.